To promote my new flower shop, I had one place print my business cards, another print my brochures, and a third, my signs. Now my roses aren't red, my violets aren't blue, my geraniums look dead, and I don't know what to do.
Staples can help your business stand out with signs, banners, and brochures that are a true reflection of your company. And now at Staples, spend $50 or more on print and marketing services and get $5 off your next in-store purchase.
Now my business is blossoming, and I'm spending less green.
Exclusions apply. In-store only. Ends 6/23/18.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, folks. How are you doing? It's me, Danny Tisdale, and you're on the Danny Tisdale Show. And as we do every week, we make a hardcore effort to speak to the leaders, legends, and trailblazers in and out of Harlem. And, of course, we're doing that today. I'm not going to tell you who that is yet, but, I do want you to connect with us on Twitter at twitter.com/HWMag and also on Facebook with the same HWMag and also, again, on Facebook at Harlem World Magazine. And don't forget Instagram at Harlem World Magazine also. And again, I hope you are having a great day. And if you're not, your day's going to get better. It doesn't, because life changes and days and moods changes, everything changes. So your negative will turn into a positive. You'll feel better. And let me tell you, after listening to this show and this amazing person that we have, I know you'll feel better. So let's get right into it. Today we have B. Michael on the show. He's a fashion designer. He was born, I'm not going to tell you what year it was, but it was in Durham, Connecticut. He attended the University of Connecticut and studied at the New York Fashion Institute of Technology, a.k.a. FIT. He worked as a milliner with Oscar de la Renta. Yeah, you heard me correct. Oscar de la Renta and Nolan Miller for the TV show Dynasty. In 1989, he launched his namesake millinery line, and in 1999 developed and launched his first couture collection. B. Michael has fans from Harlem's Cicely Tyson. What's wrong with me? Nancy Wilson, Beyoncé, Lena Horne, you name it, they're fans. He's also designed the Whitney Houston costume for Sparkle. He's shown in Beijing, China, Korea, Shanghai. He has a ready-to-wear fashion. Of course, you know this already. B. Michael America Red sells in Macy's. B. Michael is a member of the Council of Fashion Designers of America, CFDA, a lecturer at New York's Fashion Institute of Technology, serves on the advisory board of Dream Yard Project. He's also working, or should I say, on the board of the Cicely Tyson School for Performing and Fine Arts. In addition to his work and community activism, B. Michael is an avid collector, as myself, of vintage books, artifacts, and photography. Lives in New York City with his life partner, Mark Anthony Edwards, and their two daughters. We love B. Michael and his work, and especially after we posted the story, Fashion for Success, designer and Harlem fave, B. Michael visits Virginia. That was posted in April 2008. And when we post this podcast on our site, we will post and link that article for you. All that to say, Mr. B. Michael is here with us. How are you doing, Mr. Michael?
I am doing very well, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing great. And since I have you as a guest, I'm doing even better. So it's great to have you on the show. I've been a long time fan of yours when I worked at Interview Magazine with Andy Warhol at Barney's, New York. So I've been a long-term fan of yours, and I'm really excited to have you on the show. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm actually very excited to be here as well.
Well, and I wanted to start just to, give a spin on the wedding of London Century with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry. Any response to the gear that she was wearing. I know she made the big mistake of not wearing B. Michael, but I did want to ask you if you had any response to what she wore during the wedding.
Yes, I thought she looked absolutely elegant and modern and timeless. All things that, for me, my own aesthetic, I find important. So for me, she really did achieve that. I thought she looked flawless, I must say. I like the fact that it was very simplistic. I always say that simplicity, when it comes to aesthetics, is the most difficult to achieve. So
right. And, you are right on. I mean, you said that it looked timeless. I think you said classic, and it is so hard to do that. And so many people, I guess they're trying to do it and don't do it. But I thought you hit it right on, and I just wanted to bounce that off of you and see what your feelings were. And more importantly, I wanted to now, talk about you and your work, and who has inspired you to become the designer that you've become?
Well, I will say that the person that inspired me the most growing up would be my paternal grandmother, who is now gone. But she was a person who had great style, speaking of, being timeless and elegant. Some of the dresses I remember that she wore would still be, relevant today. So she, was being timeless. And I don't even know that I understood that then, but it was the impression that it's a lasting impression, I would say. And even my mom, who is very artistic and always had this simple little black dress and strand of pearls. So for me, that was the aesthetic that I saw, and I just, it's ingrained. So I would credit both of them for giving me that kind of impression. And they both actually pushed me, even as a kid, my opinion of what they were wearing or to go with them to select a dress. I was maybe 12 and 13 years old, and they were asking my opinion. So I would have to say that they pushed me and saw something that I had not figured out at that stage.
Wow. So what is the, and I don't really, this is one of those questions I knew that would come up that I didn't have planned, but, I'm curious. What is the secret sauce for timelessness and classic style? Is it that you either have it or you don't have it, or can that be learned?
Well, I do believe that you have it or you don't. But I will also, I think because taste and fashion is subjective. So what one might consider timeless, maybe someone else, would have a different
I see.
about it.
Right.
So I respect the fact that art and taste is subjective, but then, I can be very bullish about it and say, however, that either you have it or you don't.
Yeah, you're right on with that, because some folks, they either have it or they don't have it, and dare I say, and these are my words, it seems like I'm gonna stay positive. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's remain positive. Exactly.
Yes. Because I know that energy that you put out is the energy that you get back, so I will leave it at that. And I think you're right on with that. But I wanted to go, of course, back to you. And what was the moment, if there was this moment, where the clouds parted and the sun shined, and you said, you know what, I've got the designer, in me. Design is what I'm going to do. Was there that kind of moment, or was there something that came over time?
Well, I would say I can't remember not thinking of myself as I am going to be a fashion designer. So as a kid, it was always my thought that I would be a fashion designer. And I will add, though, that as I progressed, I tried not to be a fashion designer. And so I worked for 5 minutes on Wall Street and so forth.
That's right.
But it's my DNA. I mean, it's like me trying not to be me. So there wasn't a moment where it crystallized. It's just the way I've always thought of myself, and I can't imagine being anything else.
Yeah, right. No, I hear you, and it's not that I try to not pay attention to, fashion and what people are wearing, because every second of my life, of the day, I'm looking at what people are wearing and how they wear it, and I forget sometimes that my mother was a seamstress, and so I'm looking at the details of how a garment is put together. It's really quite amazing how your past affects your present and your future. So I completely understand that.
Yeah, it's all tied together for sure, and continues to be.
And I was looking at I think it was Dior, and it was the new designer that they have, and he's the new couture designer. I forgot the gentleman's name, but in talking about the business of fashion, and especially at the level that you're doing, how tough is it for a young designer to break into the business, and let alone, more importantly, let me ask a different question. What is the key to staying at the A level of design that you are doing? I know the business is hard, it's hardcore. How do you stay in your A game?
Great question. And, you can't answer that question without really talking about the business side of fashion. Because, again, fashion being subjective, I have finally figured this out, and I will admit this publicly, now in this part of my career, that it really is about the business. My ability to execute my vision comes from my ability, from capital, basically, and from resources. And so they are tied together. And now when we have the opportunity to speak to young people, I always want to focus and make that point that it really, have your portfolio in one hand, but you've got to have your business plan and your financial model and seeking the right kind of capital and infrastructure in the other hand. Because to execute your vision, to sustain yourself with your A game requires resources. And so that is very important that we understand that fashion is a $3 trillion industry, and it requires business. And so, it's interesting. Someone said to me a few collections ago, and they thought, oh, my God, you've come from such a long way. Look at this collection and look at the fabrics. You've grown. I said, well, basically, it's not that I've grown. I mean, of course, we continue to grow, but what I have are resources, and that's the difference.
And when you say resources, what is it? Financial resources? Is it people that you can reach out to that know maybe something that you don't know about a textile or something? What do you mean by resources?
So it's everything you mentioned, because first of all, it's about building relationships. We know that we live in an industry and society where it's about who you know and opening doors. So that is very much a key part of it. Of course, it's about having capital. Capital gives you the opportunity even to be exposed to the people who can, open doors and build the right kind of relationship. And then, of course, it is about understanding whatever the commodities are of your industry. In my case, it would be textiles and so on and so forth. But it's all of those things. It's infrastructure. It's about business and creativity working together.
I think those are extremely important points. And, with that, Mr. B. Michael, I'm going to take a quick podcast ID and let our listeners know they're listening to Danny Tisdale and B. Michael, Mr. B. Michael, on the Danny Tisdale Show on Harlem World Magazine, the #1 company in the world for all things Harlem since 2003. And I'm listening to one of the folks that I love his work, and now falling in love with his work philosophy. Though I've read it before, it's even better to hear it straight from the fashion guru himself. And we're talking about the business of fashion right now. And we're going to, I'm looking at these sheets and I'm like ready to go forward, but I want to, before we go forward, fall back a second. And because you mentioned resources, B. Michael, and there's some things you can do and some things you can't do. And I may be wrong, but do you need those resources for anything that you want to do in fashion, or is it just about growth that you need the resources, or you need resources no matter what you do?
Well, I think you need resources no matter what it is that you are doing. But if we're talking about specifically fashion, yes. I think those resources are extremely important. And I have to add this, as now embracing the fact that I am a Black designer, a Black American designer as well, it's even more important that, as we approach with our A game, that we understand the need for, capital, resources, infrastructure, so that we have the opportunity to compete, and to make a difference.
Right. Yeah, right, because you can't compete unless you have those resources. And if you want to be as big as B. Michael, you definitely need the resources to do that, and especially being on the stage, whether it's, I hear you saying, whether it's the luxury or whether it's just the quality of the piece or just the style, you really need the resources to grow. Can one stay at the level they're at, or do you need to continually grow your business and grow your relationships? Or can you just stay where you are and be comfortable where one is in their fashion life?
Well, I can only speak for myself, and I would say that it's always about growing and expanding. So especially as a business and as a brand, and we live in a global world, so it's always about growing, expanding, globalizing, reaching new markets, using new platforms to reach new audiences. Absolutely always about growth. And when we talk about a brand that, but when we're talking about the brands that we know and we consider world-class brands continue to grow, and they leave legacies, and they last for decades, and that's the aim we go for. In April, as you do know, we posted the article where you were in Virginia talking to fashion students, and you talked to students about legacy and barriers of working in the fashion business with Macy's and others. What advice do you have for, of course, those students, but the students who are here with us today listening to us? And a lot of our listeners, too, are parents who are executives, and maybe their sons and daughters are about to enter the industry. What advice do you have for those listening who want to follow in your fashion footsteps? My first advice, actually, I would look over the shoulder of the young person, of the fashion student, and maybe speak to their family and their friends and the people who support them, and want to say to them the importance of supporting Black designers. If your daughter or your son is entering into the industry, you know, it really needs to just begin with your own natural market. When we were in Virginia and speaking to the class, we asked the class, who presently is wearing something from a black designer? And in the first session, no hands went up. And in the second, one hand went up, and he was actually wearing a T-shirt that he himself had created. But understanding, so I want to say to their support people, understand the importance of that. Understand the importance of financially supporting them as a business entity. That's important. And then I would say to the fashion student to also, you know, recognize that you are entering an industry that's, you know, a business, and that you need to find your way in that regard. Totally.
That's extremely important information, and I'll just share another story that I relate to what you're saying is that, you know, after I graduated from college, I just jumped in my car and drove out to New York City, 3,000 miles away. And I didn't have a lot of money, but, you know, I had the support of my family and especially my mother. And, you know, I said, I'll be okay because, you know, I've got their support. If there's any emergency that comes up, which I've never had to reach back to them, but the support was there. And, you know, that's I don't think you can monetize that. You can't put a number on just having that, you know, emotional support. And if, you know, money was an issue, I'm sure they would have kicked in. But I think you're right on with that. And as you said, it's extremely important and to have that. And as we talk, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, because what we want to do, we want to build entrepreneurship. And, you know, specifically we're talking in the fashion industry, but of course across all industries. And so that is what is most important and what we want to instill. And that does require support, and it requires, you know, understanding vision and execution and so forth. But it's the idea that we want to create, you know, we talk a lot about diversity, but the truth is what we really want is equity.
Yes, sir. And equity at times seems a far distance from where one may be at that moment, but that really is the goal. And if you don't have goals, there's, you know, how do you take that first step? I hear you completely. And I wanted to talk to you also a little bit about, or a lot, since we're probably at the 8-minute mark, about e-commerce, because I understand that you have a new site coming out, or it is out, and we want to know how we can get our B. Michael fix. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, we do want you to have a B. Michael fix. And we are actively developing our very first e-com website, which will be our own branded site. So our CEO, Mark Anthony, and team are working diligently, even as we speak, to make that happen. We launch in September around Fashion Week. For me, I'm excited. Yes, I'm excited because it will be an opportunity to really curate my point of view direct to consumer, so that we can really tell our brand story. So that's what's most exciting. And, you know, we live in a world now where we can interface globally. So it's going to be a game changer for the brand, and we're very excited about it.
So, Mr. Michael, does it mean that, you know, even though you are, and I'm not talking about you, but someone may be designing in Iowa for a local shop and they have a website, does that mean you're global anyway, whether you say you're global or not? Or I don't have it right or understand it?
Well, that's a very tricky question. And I would say, well, you know, the difference is this. When you are on the internet as an e-com site, obviously then you can be reached in other countries. So to some degree, you could say you're global. But it's also about having distribution channels internationally would make you a global business.
Ha. So, and it also, does it mean that you have to be purpose-driven, that if you are, you do have the site, locally, wherever you may be in your city, that you should be, maybe that's the way to ask the question, you should be purpose-driven, that is your purpose to sell globally. It is your purpose to sell around the block on 125th Street. So is that what I hear you saying? You have to be purpose-driven?
You do have to be purpose-driven, but each business has its own unique business model. So that business, in Iowa may be that they want to be, maybe they're only even distributing in their own state, and that's fine. It's really about what your business model is. And then obviously you would then, build an infrastructure that's in line with whatever that model is.
Right.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
Wow. So this
there's
is
no right or wrong.
Yeah, I hear you. That makes sense.
Right. Yes. And so our particular model is that we would be global. And for us, that means that we would create retail partnerships internationally for international distribution. So not only through our e-com site, but also through retail partnerships.
And that harkens back to what you said earlier, which is to build relationships and partnerships and not just work in a vacuum of sorts. I know I'm paraphrasing, but that's what I was getting from what you said. Yeah.
Yes. And then, and what's important as I say that is to understand the need to have capital. Yes. To build that kind of infrastructure and to create, that kind of distribution network.
I'm going to confess something that I've said to myself, but I've never said publicly, is that I always thought I could build my business without using others' money. And I guess there are those who can do it, but at the same time, you have to, like you said, leave yourself open to build and use others' money instead of your own money, or to do both.
Well, again, it depends on your business model, but the truth is to grow, you need capital. I mean, that is a fact. And very few people, and especially those who could do it, they taught us the law of OPM, other people's money. But the point is that, and you can't be greedy. I mean, it's better if you own a percentage of something tangible than all of nothing. So it's really about what you are willing to give up in order to achieve what your goal might be, to stay focused. And then, of course, underneath that, you can have various goals. I'm happy to say out loud that as a brand and as a designer in the luxury space, as we speak, we are a Black-owned business entirely. And that's that was the decision that we made. So while we recognized we needed partners, we also wanted to make a different kind of statement. And globally, I have to say, as being in the luxury space, we feel very proud of that.
Well, and we're extremely proud of that, and especially in the luxury space, which is my favorite space. I knew this was going to happen. I've got about, a minute and a half, and I've got a lifetime of questions. But since we spoke of e-commerce, I wanted to, at this point, give your social networking URLs for our listeners so that they can stay in contact with you and on top of what you're doing, and especially in September to clear out your inventory. How can they stay in touch with you?
Be Michael America, and that's the name across all of our social platforms. So for Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, it's Be Michael America.
So all you have to do is go to Google, put in Be Michael, and it'll all show up.
Be Michael America.
Be Michael America, excuse me. So you hear how he's working, folks. This is the way you do it. just put it in and it comes across all platforms. Harlem World's about to learn from that also. We're getting schooled and we're not even paying for it. And, sir, we're at the last 40 seconds, and I want to thank you for being on the show. I knew it was going to fly by. I can't wait to play this over again and listen to it. And if you're open to it, I'm going to reach back to you around September to talk about the release and how people can stay in touch with you. And we'll post it on the site. Thank you, sir. We love you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, folks, another great show. Stay tuned. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Summer's here, and long sun-filled days mean plenty of time to enjoy the sweetness, spiciness, and savory goodness of the season. All thanks to Albertsons and Vaughn's Summer Sale. It's on now with so many deals, I just couldn't resist. Get large origami cantaloupe locally grown in Brawley, or 6-ounce packages of fresh blueberries locally grown in Kingsburg. Limit 2 packages, just 88 cents each with your club card, if applicable. Cannonball! Make a splash at your next get-together. Save big at Albertsons and Vaughn's Summer Sale, now till June 5th. Summer's here, and long sun-filled days mean plenty of time to enjoy the sweetness, spiciness, and savory goodness of the season. All thanks to Albertsons and Vaughn's Summer Sale. It's on now with so many deals, I just couldn't resist. Get large origami cantaloupe locally grown in Brawley, or 6-ounce packages of fresh blueberries locally grown in Kingsburg. Limit 2 packages, just 88 cents each with your club card, if applicable. Cannonball! Make a splash at your next get-together. Save big at Albertsons and Vaughn's Summer Sale, now till June 5th.